10 artists who ruled the R&B charts in the 1960s. You've hummed their melodies without knowing their names. You've danced to songs they recorded before the Rolling Stones covered them and called them their own. These were not backup singers or session players. These were headliners and chart toppers who packed clubs from Detroit to New Orleans, from Harlem to Memphis. And somewhere between the British invasion, the Motown machine, and the politics of a decade on fire, the industry forgot about them. Here are 10 R&B legends who ruled the 60s. Their stories are wilder than you think. Number 10, Barbara Lynn. You'll Lose a Good Thing, 1962. In 1962, a 20-year-old black woman from Beaumont, Texas, walked into one of the most legendary recording studios in New Orleans and cut a #1 record. Oh, yeah. You lose. She wrote the song herself. She played lead guitar on the session, and she did it all left-handed. Barbara Lynn had been inspired by Guitar Slim, Jimmy Reed, Elvis Presley, and Brenda Lee. Oh, yeah. If you should lose. She formed an all-female band in high school, worked the Texas club circuit, and was discovered performing underage across the state line at a club called the Palomino Lounge. Producer Huey Moe drove to Beaumont, got permission from her parents, and took her to Cosimo Matassa's legendary J&M studio in New Orleans, the same room where Fats Domino, Little Richard, and Ray Charles had made history. One of the session musicians that day was Mac Rebennack, the man the world would later know as Dr. John. You'll Lose a Good Thing was a true story. She had a real boyfriend, they had a real fight, and she told him exactly what she thought. Yeah. The song hit #1 on the R&B chart and #8 on the Billboard Hot 100, staying at the top for 3 weeks. She went on tour with Sam Cooke, B.B. King, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, and Otis Redding. B.B. King was so moved, he wrote a letter to her mother telling her what a gifted daughter she had raised. Aretha Franklin covered her song. The Rolling Stones recorded her follow-up, Oh Baby We've Got a Good Thing Going, for their 1965 album. She married in 1970, stepped back from the industry, raised her children, and quietly became one of the most undersung pioneers in American music. She received a Pioneer Award from the Rhythm and Blues Foundation in 1999. She was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame in 2026. A black female songwriter who played left-handed electric lead guitar and had a #1 record in 1962. And most people have never heard her name. Number 9, Chuck Jackson. Any Day Now, 1962. There are no drums on this record, none. The only rhythm underneath Chuck Jackson's voice is an ashtray. Someone in the studio tapping an ashtray to keep time. And somehow, it became one of the most haunting soul ballads of the entire decade. Any day now. Chuck Jackson was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina in 1937, raised in South Carolina, and moved to Pittsburgh at 13. You'll be on your way. He sang gospel, performed wherever he could find a stage, and joined the Dell Vikings. one of rock and roll's first interracial groups, between 1957 and 1959. When he left, he opened for Jackie Wilson at the Apollo Theater in New York. After his first show, Wilson pulled him aside and told him, "I did not bring you here just to sing. You've got to perform." At the next show, Jackson fell to his knees. Florence Greenberg, the rare female record executive who owned Scepter Records, was in the audience. She signed him immediately. Beautiful bird, you will have fun. Any Day Now was written by Burt Bacharach and Bob Hilliard. The drums never came together the way the session needed, so someone grabbed an ashtray and started tapping. That became the finished record. It peaked at number 2 on the R&B chart and number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100. Until you've gone forever. Elvis Presley covered it. Ronnie Milsap covered it and went to number 1 on the country chart in 1982. Holding you this way. Chuck Jackson had 23 charted singles between 1961 and 1980. Want to stay. His friend Smokey Robinson convinced him to leave Scepter and sign with Motown in 1968. Jackson later called that decision one of the worst mistakes of his life. Holding you this way. Motown put him on the road and barely released his recordings. He died on February 16, 2023, at 85 years old. Until you've gone forever. Dionne Warwick called him her big brother and said she would miss his daily phone calls. An ashtray. And this, a Burt Bacharach song, a voice that could break every heart in the room. The clock strike go, you call it off.
Listen, 90% of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet. If these stories are blowing your mind, imagine what you're missing. Hit subscribe, turn on that bell, and join the 200,000 R&B fans who never miss a Groove Lens upload.
Number 8, Joe Tex, Hold What You've Got, now 1965. Joe Tex recorded 30 singles before he had a hit. 30. He burned through King Records, Ace Records, Chess Records, and Anna Records. Every single one flopped. He had been trying for nearly 10 years by the time he walked into Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals, Alabama in November 1964. Joseph Arrington Jr. was born in Rogers, Texas in 1935. He won Amateur Night at the Apollo Theater 4 times in a row, earned his first recording contract in 1955, and then spent almost a decade making beautiful records that went absolutely nowhere. The song that finally broke through was written on a paper bag. Tex said it himself. He was thinking about his childhood sweetheart, who was now married to someone else. His voice was hoarse on the day of the session. He had no melody. Producer Buddy Killen suggested matching the words to a gospel hymn, and when Tex couldn't hit the high notes, Killen told him to just talk through those parts. That preaching, that spoken delivery, became the entire soul of the record. Killen released the song without telling Tex. By the time Tex found out it was on the radio, it had already sold 200,000 copies. Just throw it away. It went to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the R&B chart. In 1965 alone, Joe Tex had more R&B chart hits than any other artist in the country, including his bitter rival James Brown, who had stolen one of Tex's songs, taken writing credit, and recruited Tex's ex-wife into his band. The feud was legendary and completely real. Tex converted to Islam in 1966, changed his name to Yusuf Hazis, and eventually retired to a ranch in Texas to watch football. Number 7. Irma Thomas. Wish Someone Would Care, 1964. She was married for the first time at 14 years old. By the time she was 19, she had been married twice and had 4 children. She was working as a waitress in New Orleans and was fired from 2 different jobs for singing while she worked, both times.
Success has come to lots of them.
Irma Thomas, born Irma Lee in Ponchatoula, Louisiana in 1941, was a singer before she was anything else.
And I wish someone would.
She landed her first record deal at age 18. Her first single was called You Can Have My Husband, But Please Don't Mess With My Man.
What about your tribulations and all?
She was not playing games. She moved to Minute Records, began working with the legendary Alan Toussaint, and built one of the most powerful voices in the history of New Orleans music.
The bad, the hurt, all of this goes to.
When Toussaint left for the Army in 1963, Minute was sold to Imperial Records, which brought Irma to Los Angeles to record her first album.
All of your trials, small.
The session musicians included Earl Palmer and Carol Kay. They recorded a batch of songs that day. One was tucked away as a B-side. It was called Time Is On My Side. Within months, a young British band called the Rolling Stones heard it, recorded a virtual note-for-note cover, and had their first U.S. top 10 hit. Irma Thomas's version had not cracked the top 40. The actual A-side, Wish Someone Would Care, which she wrote herself, hit the top 20 and became her biggest national hit. After Hurricane Camille devastated New Orleans in 1969, she moved her family to California and supported her children by working at a Montgomery Ward department store. For years, she refused to perform Time Is On My Side in concert because she was furious. She finally won her first Grammy Award in 2007 at age 66 for Best Contemporary Blues Album. Mick Jagger performed the song at the Grammy Awards in 2011 in tribute to her. The world gave her song to someone else. She kept singing anyway, for over 65 years and counting.
Sit down and think about your.
Number 6, Solomon Burke, Everybody Needs Somebody to Love, in 1964. He was a child preacher. By age 12, Solomon Burke had his own ministry and his own gospel radio show in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was known as the Wonder Boy Preacher.
I got a little message for you.
When he eventually crossed over into R&B, he had to ask his church for permission. He performed on a throne, wearing a crown and a royal robe. He was once crowned King of Rock and Soul by a Baltimore radio DJ and took the title completely seriously for the next decade. In 1964, Burke walked into Atlantic Records needing a 4th song for a session. The producers wanted him to record a little bit of Soap. He refused. They offered him another song about a dog. He refused again. He said directly, "I don't want to sing a song about a dog, and I don't want to sing a song about soap." Then he went to the bathroom and wrote Everybody Needs Somebody to Love. The song was based on the money march from his church. The tune played while the congregation marched to the front to make offerings. When he came back out and played it, producer Jerry Wexler told him it was a terrible song. Burt Burns said it was a disaster. Then they asked for a piece of the songwriting credit. Burke later said they didn't write a single word. The Rolling Stones heard it and put it on their second album. The Blues Brothers performed it in their 1980 film, but incorrectly credited it to Wilson Pickett on screen. Burke watched the movie with his children, saw his song attributed to someone else, and called Atlantic the next morning threatening to shut down the film. They sent him $20,000 within 24 hours. Jerry Wexler got on the phone and said, "I thought you were dead. This is wonderful." The song is ranked number 429 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. Burke had 21 children, ran concession stands at his own concerts, operated funeral homes and limousine businesses, and earned a real doctoral degree. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001. He died on October 10, 2010. He wrote one of the most covered songs in history in a bathroom. Number 5, Jackie Wilson, Higher and Higher, 1967. Elvis Presley called him the greatest entertainer he had ever seen. Michael Jackson dedicated his Grammy for Thriller to him. Van Morrison wrote a tribute song about him. And yet, Jackie Wilson spent the last 9 years of his life in a nursing home, brain damaged and broke, forgotten by the industry that had made millions off his talent. Jackie Leroy Wilson was born in Detroit, Michigan on June 9, 1934. He was a Golden Gloves boxing champion, a 4-octave vocal powerhouse, and a performer who could do backflips on stage. His first solo hits were written by a young songwriter named Berry Gordy Jr., who used those royalties to start Motown Records. That is not a small detail. The man who would become Jackie Wilson's commercial competition was launched by Jackie Wilson's success. By 1967, Wilson's manager, Nat Tarnopol, had been stealing from him for years. The IRS seized his family home. Then producer Carl Davis assembled 4 members of Motown's Funk Brothers, who secretly drove from Detroit to Chicago, were paid double their normal rate in cash to avoid detection, and recorded the instrumental track for Higher and Higher on July 6, 1967. When Wilson first sang it, he treated it like a slow ballad. Davis stopped him and said, "That's totally wrong. You have to jump and go with the percussion." Wilson cut the entire vocal in a single take. The song hit #1 R&B and #6 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was later inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. On September 29, 1975, Wilson was performing Lonely Teardrops in New Jersey, sang the words, "My Heart is Crying," and collapsed on stage from a massive heart attack. His brain was deprived of oxygen long enough to cause permanent damage. He lay in a nursing home for 8.5 years. He died on January 21, 1984. His medical bills were paid by Dick Clark. The greatest entertainer Elvis ever saw, and the industry let him die broke. Number 4, Major Lance. 1963.
Walking through the park, it wasn't quite dark.
The title is literally 6 ums, and it went to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 2 on the R&B chart in 1963. It was one of the most played songs of that entire year. Ulysses Grant Lance was born in Chicago, Illinois on April 4, 1939. He grew up in the Cabrini Green housing projects, was part of a street gang as a teenager, and eventually got out through music and athletics.
Guess I was born with the curious mind.
His great stroke of luck was meeting a young songwriter named Curtis Mayfield, who had just formed the Impressions with Jerry Butler, and was already building a reputation as one of the most gifted composers on Chicago's South Side. Mayfield began writing songs specifically for Major Lance's voice, and what he created was some of the most joyful, perfectly constructed Chicago soul of the entire decade.
Now that I've grown up,
captured the feeling of being so overwhelmed by love that no words were adequate. Just sound, just that sound.
we just go,
Curtis Mayfield wrote Lance 6 more charted hits in 1964 alone: The Monkey Time, Hey Little Girl, and Rhythm among them.
And the woman I love, she has gone.
Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders covered in the UK. Major Lance was one of the most consistently charted R&B artists in the country between 1963 and 1965. Then the British invasion reshaped radio, Chicago soul lost its commercial momentum, and the hits stopped. Lance was convicted of heroin distribution in 1978 and served prison time. After his release, he attempted several comebacks, finding more love on the UK Northern Soul circuit than in America.
Now that I've grown up,
He died of heart disease on September 3, 1994, at 55 years old. Curtis Mayfield had become one of the most important musicians in American history, and the man Mayfield made famous still barely gets a footnote. Number 3, Maxine Brown. Oh No, Not My Baby, 1964.
someone new, I didn't believe the same.
When Jerry Goffin and Carole King wrote this song, they did not write it for Maxine Brown. She recorded it anyway and turned it into something so undeniable that Rod Stewart had a UK Top 10 hit covering it in 1973.
Telling you lies, my mama told.
Dusty Springfield recorded her own version. The song became a standard, and yet Maxine Brown, the original, barely cracked the top 40. She was born in Kingstree, South Carolina in 1939 and raised in New York City. She sang in church throughout her childhood and came up through the gospel circuit before moving into pop and R&B, signing first with Nomar Records and then with Wand Records, the same label home to Chuck Jackson and several of the great New York soul voices of the early 60s. All in My Mind was her first hit in 1961, reaching number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100. Oh, no, not my baby. In 1964 was her commercial peak, warm, controlled, and deeply felt. Maxine's voice carrying every syllable of a lyric about a woman refusing to believe her man would betray her. It peaked at number 24 on the Hot 100 and number 21 on R&B. She recorded duets with Chuck Jackson, toured constantly, and appeared regularly at the Apollo Theater. But the hits stopped coming in the late 60s, and the larger cultural conversation moved on without her. She worked as a dental assistant in New Jersey for stretches of her later career to support herself. She received a Pioneer Award from the Rhythm and Blues Foundation in 1990. Rod Stewart had a top 10 hit with her song. Dusty Springfield recorded it, dozens of artists covered it, and Maxine Brown, who recorded it first, who sang it best, spent years working a day job to pay her bills. If the song was that powerful, imagine what the original artist deserved. Number 2, Baby Washington. That's How Heartaches Are Made, 1963. Her name was Jeanette Washington. She was born in 1940 in Bamberg, South Carolina. Everybody called her Baby, not because she was young, just because that's what people called her. She began recording in the late 50s in New York, working her way through a series of independent labels before landing at Sue Records, one of the great small R&B imprints of the early 60s. That's How Heartaches Are Made was produced in 1963 by Burt Burns, the same man at the center of the writing dispute over Solomon Burke's biggest song. Burns had extraordinary ears for what made a soul record work. He gave Baby Washington lush, yearning strings and a cinematic production that felt bigger than anything playing on pop radio at the time. And Baby Washington delivered a vocal performance that was emotionally complete, deeply adult, and far ahead of what most producers knew how to frame. The song peaked at number 10 on the R&B chart and number 40 on the Billboard Hot 100. Solid numbers, but not enough to build the lasting career she deserved. What makes her story particularly striking is how much of her work was ahead of its time. She was recording Quiet Storm before Quiet Storm had a name. She was making sophisticated adult R&B before the format existed. Music scholars and serious soul collectors cite her recordings as foundational to everything that came after. And her name barely appears in mainstream histories of the era. She recorded into the 70s and made sporadic appearances through the 80s before stepping away from the industry entirely. She died on June 20th, 2018, at 77 years old in New York City. The Burt Burns strings, the cinematic production, the voice that belonged on every radio in America in 1963. That is Baby Washington. Number 1, Don Covay, Mercy, Mercy, 1964. The Rolling Stones opened their 1965 American tour with this song, They played it at every show. Mick Jagger told Don Covay directly backstage that Mercy Mercy had changed everything about how he thought about performing. And yet, Don Covay never had the mainstream success of the artists he influenced. Donald Randolph Covay was born on March the 24th, 1936, in Orangeburg, South Carolina. He moved to Washington, D.C. as a child, sang gospel as a teenager, worked with Little Richard's band as a dancer and road performer, and spent years writing songs on the side for anyone who would listen. In 1964, he recorded Mercy Mercy at Atlantic Records. The session band that day included a young guitarist working as a New York session musician on his way up. That guitarist was Jimi Hendrix. Hendrix played guitar on the Mercy Mercy session while he and Covay were musical peers before the world reorganized itself and made one of them a legend. Mercy Mercy reached number 35 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 10 on the R&B chart. The song was everywhere. Otis Redding recorded it. Wilson Pickett had his own version. The Rolling Stones played it at every show on their American tour. Covay went on to write Chain of Fools for Aretha Franklin. One of the defining records of her entire career, he co-wrote Pony Time for Chubby Checker. He was a founding member of the Soul Clan alongside Solomon Burke, Joe Tex, Arthur Conley, and Benny King. He won the Grammy Trustee Award in 2000. He had a stroke in 1992 that left him partially paralyzed and significantly impaired his speech. He spent his final years in a care facility in Silver Spring, Maryland, and died on February 13, 2015, at 78 years old. The Stones played his song for 3 straight decades. Most people still think it is their song. Jimi Hendrix played guitar on the original session, and Don Covay died in a care facility. That is the #1 forgotten R&B legend of the 60s.